What does catnip really do to your cat? When is it the perfect tool to help your cat, and when could it lead to unexpected dangers? What hidden trait determines whether your cat will love or completely ignore catnip? And why on earth does your cat lose interest in catnip so quickly, even when they seem obsessed at first? In this video, we'll explore what catnip really does to your cat. But before we dive in for the answers, consider subscribing and joining our feline-loving community for more fun tips on keeping your cat happy. What is catnip? Also known as catmint, field balm, or catwort, catnip is one of the most well-known feline-friendly plants. The stem and leaves contain a chemical called nepetalactone. It might be a bit of a mouthful, but to our cats, it's what makes catnip so much fun. For cats who are sensitive to catnip, it's the nepetalactone that stimulates their hyperactivity or sleepiness, or in some cases, aggression. Catnip is available in most cat toys, but can also be found as a fresh plant, dried leaves, in spray bottles, or as bubbles. Although we don't have the same response to catnip as cats do, we can use catnip too. Number 1. Hyper Kitty. Of all the reactions cats have to catnip, hyperactivity is the most well-known. It's all the stories of hyperactive, crazy felines that make catnip so entertaining for humans too. What cat parent doesn't love to see their cats go insane over a toy mouse stuffed full of catnip goodness? Why not prompt them to get up and move with a new toy? Catnip zoomies are adorable. While it's never a good idea to leave your cat unattended with catnip, that hyper kitty could get into trouble or knock something over while they play, hyperactivity is harmless for your cat. It can even be a good thing in some cases. Catnip can get even the laziest cat moving. A win-win for cat parents who want to play and for felines who need to lose some weight. Number 2. Sleepy Kitty. You might expect your cat to run around the house when they sniff catnip, but some of them have the opposite reaction. Catnip, especially when it's eaten instead of sniffed, can be used as a sedative. The cat you're trying to entice into a game might just curl up and sleep instead. Did you say playtime? Maybe later it's nap time now. Of course, the same can be said for cats who do react with hyperactivity. Once the craze is over, they'll need to restore their energy somehow. What better way than crashing out on the couch? It's comfortable, warm, and likely where their catnip-induced zoomies landed them. Number 3. Little ball of claws. Catnip isn't always a good thing. Some cats don't react positively to catnip at all. This isn't because they hate their new toy or you for suggesting they'd like catnip. Why would they when they know you just want them to enjoy themselves? They still react to the catnip itself, but their reaction is more aggressive than playful. This is because the chemical in catnip that your cat responds to smells like feline pheromones. Many of the reactions to catnip mimic behaviors female cats show when they're in heat. Most of these behaviors are playfulness, affection, and happiness, but also include aggression. For this reason, it's always a good idea to test your cat's reaction to catnip before you let them run off with a new catnip toy, especially if you have more than one cat in the house. Number 4. 10-Minute Rush. Despite the intensity of your cat's reaction to catnip, the effects don't last very long at all. Whether your cat becomes hyper or aggressive, there'll be a frantic hive of activity for about 10 to 15 minutes before they curl up for a nap. It's this short burst of fun that makes catnip so delightful for both cat parents and felines themselves. Maybe it's not the longest distraction for rainy days stuck indoors, but it's a good way to ward off boredom. Break out the catnip, and you and your cat will be bonding over shared fun in no time at all. You don't need to worry about catnip being addictive either. Not only does the effect only last for a short time, but cats are very good at self-regulating their catnip intake. To the point that, after a catnip hit, they're not sensitive to it for up to 2 hours afterward. Number 5. Where's the high? The effects of catnip might be well known to every cat parent, but not every feline is affected by the herb. Since only 70 to 80% of cats react to catnip, your kitty might be one of the few who just blinks at it before staring at you with a questioning look on their face. You've given me leaves? Where's my dinner? Sensitivity to catnip is inherited. So not only do some cats react differently to catnip, but some felines simply don't have the genes that make them sensitive to it at all. Also, consider how old the catnip toy is. Over time, catnip gets less potent and needs to be replaced. There's also a cool down period after a catnip trip. Following the rush of activity and resulting nap, your cat won't be affected by catnip again for anywhere between 30 minutes to 2 hours, which just makes the catnip rush even more enjoyable when it does affect them. Number 6. Save the nip for later. If you've ever heard of catnip being called weed for cats, you might be concerned about kittens and catnip. Being the minors of the cat world, it only makes sense to keep catnip and the high it causes out of their reach. However, not only is catnip not a drug in the same way that most human hallucinogenics are, but young kittens aren't affected by it at all. Even if your kitten inherits the genes that make them sensitive to catnip, they won't react to it until they're between 3 to 6 months old. With kittens being balls of furry mischief makers already, the lack of a catnip high is probably a good thing. But when most cat toys contain the herb, it can be disappointing not to see a reaction in your kitten. Save the catnip toys for when your kitten is a little older so you can test whether they react to the herb or not. If they don't, that's okay too. Your kitten will be happy chasing their favorite jingle ball across the room as long as they get to play with you. Number 7. Persuasion 101. People who don't have cats might assume they can't be trained, but we, as cat parents, know better. We just need to figure out what makes our cats tick. A pocketful of treats goes a long way to convince them to listen, but for cats watching their waistline, catnip is a great alternative. The dried leaves or a catnip spray are both perfect for training your cat. Try spraying some catnip on their new scratching post or sprinkling some leaves over their new cat tree. They might not have shown much interest before, beyond the initial inquisitive sniff, but catnip is a good way to get their attention. Not only does the smell remind your cat of positive things, like playtime with you, it helps to encourage them to use their new scratching post rather than the couch. Once they've got their paws on that sisal rope in an attempt to grab those tasty leaves, how could they say no to a convenient manicure? Number 8. Chill out. Most of the better-known effects of catnip happen when your cat smells catnip, but did you know they can eat it too? Eating catnip might not give cats the same rush smelling it does, but they still benefit from munching on the plant. Eating catnip is most helpful for anxious kitties as it works as a sedative. Instead of making them hyperactive or aggressive, it relaxes them and makes them sleepy. They don't need to eat a lot for this effect either. If you use the fresh leaves rather than the dried ones, the herb is even more potent. An extra interesting fact is catnip can be ingested by humans too. Made into tea, it works similarly to chamomile. If you ever want to chill out with your cat, add some catnip to their food and try some catnip tea for yourself. Number 9. When the catnip party goes too far. Cats, most of them at least, love catnip. It's one of the plants that are completely safe for cats, and it's not an addictive substance at all. But there are downsides, and it's not just the potential for aggression in some cats. Supervision is important to make sure your cat doesn't hurt themselves while they're performing zoomies around the house. Eating too much catnip can be a problem too. Adding too much to your cat's dinner to soothe their nerves might cause diarrhea and vomiting. You also need to be careful about how often you use catnip, even if cats are good at self-regulating. The more catnip is used, the more tolerant to the effects your cat will become. It's far better to use a little every once in a while than give it to your cat every few hours. Catnip isn't the only way to make your cat happy. But how do you make sure your cat has a happy, enriched life? Find out in this video, where we explore 7 things that make your cat happy.